Thank you, Samuel. I do have reference here. I'm not drawing this completely from memory. I'm sure you'll get there. If you practice a lot, you will absolutely get better. I have no doubt about that. At times, it may not seem like you're getting better as fast as you want to. It's a lot easier to get better if you enjoy what you're doing, because then you'll do it a lot. That said, sometimes you do have to do some things that you don't enjoy as much to help you improve. But you can do those things that you don't enjoy as much so that you know it's going to help you get better with the things that you do enjoy. And that can be your motivation to sort of push through those difficult, trying, less fun, annoying times. Do you need to know all muscle and bones anatomy, or are you just drawing the primitive forms that made up T-Rex? Short answer is yes, it helps to know the anatomy and the bone structure. The longer answer is I've been sketching, again, like a T-Rex specifically, quite often as reference for other people. So I'm really, really familiar with the T-Rex. Mostly with the bone structure, not as much with the muscle structure. But by studying the muscle structure of other creatures that are very similar, it helps you learn the muscle structure of something that is less familiar. Where knowing all of these things can be important, so it helps you to sketch something with reference, or maybe even to modify reference a bit sometimes, right? So maybe you have a reference that is facing one direction, but you want to have your sketch face the other one. That is absolutely where having a confident understanding of that form can help you out a lot. So here I'm probably going to end up going a little bit slower because I am sketching this from a reference, but I'm reversing it. So I gotta do a little bit more thinking. So it's going to cause me to slow down, but I want to do that so I can have the layout that I want on my page here. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, right, the T-Rex's muscle structure is very similar to our own, just with some distortions of where exactly some of those muscles may be going. But some combination of sketching the basic volumes there and sketching the basic volumes, right? So like the mass and structure here and the structure in the bones helps you approach any section with just a bit more confidence, with a bit more speed. It takes time at first to get better, it's worth putting that time in and being slow with it. In those early stages, so you can eventually get faster later on. Something's a little off right there. I should have made that longer, so we're gonna like maybe show the T-Rex's gums right here to try and balance those teeth out just a bit more. Alright, so like small things that I do know off the top of my head about the T-Rex, right, is that their teeth are kind of like D-shaped in the cross section, and they mostly point inward, so that when it's tearing flesh off of it, it can rip that flesh more easily, and then when it comes off the teeth, it goes into the mouth. So that's like why most of the teeth are facing inward there. So small things like that can just be helpful. And I think I'm gonna have to, I might come back to this page and put some detail on it, but I really want to do is like a lighting study. Do I want to do a trace over? Let's grab some tracing paper and see what that looks like. So my goal here is to do some studies of lighting. But even as I'm tracing this, I'm not too worried about tracing small details. Just looking at big form, getting a bit more of a gestural quality to the work than an exact, precise nature to it. I'll go and add small details later on when the tracing paper is not directly on top of this. Like the teeth, that can wait when I'm not tracing anymore. Just like one contour line here will be nice. Actually, another contour line right here and here. It's really nice. Yeah, so that's enough. Just copy that, and we get some additional details. Can add them a bit more loosely. Some of the contours around the orbital there. Something in the jawbone. Right there. Because those teeth are so tiny, and I wasn't too precise about them to begin with. It was not necessary to be super precise with them. Wrinkles in the legs, and those can also just be a little rougher. I think what I want this one to be here is a study of like the texture on the T-Rex. So again, I do have a number of references I'm looking at in front of me. Of like what the skin texture of the T-Rex is. And then we won't even bother putting it on the leg behind there. We can just hatch that out because it's going to be the same on this leg back here and on the leg in the front. Even same thing for the arm over here. Just give it a little depth. And now, again, some texture. We can see again, it's just all the neck sort of wrinkles in there. We can see just a little bit where texture, form can become some of the texture there. I'm not copying just one scenario or one reference. I'm looking at like multiple at the same time. We're not going to see too much texture or like super close skin detail at this distance. So now I'm going to have to start adding and filling in these different areas to close the gaps so it's not just random texture all over the place. Most professional artists talk about Scott Robertson how to draw a book is as good as they say. Is there a book I'd recommend? It's absolutely, there's a book I recommend. Let me show it to you. This one right here, which is the exact one you're talking about. It's absolutely the one I'd recommend. Now, compared to what I'm doing right here, this one is, a lot more about hard surface things. So it's fantastic for that. But we can see in some samples of student work he's posted in here where he can do slightly more organic shapes. But for the price, this is absolutely the one to get. It's a little stiff if you're looking for more organic shapes. It can be a little stiff and difficult if you're looking for more organic shapes. But if you're willing to put in the time, that is the book. Outside of that, I would be recommending, if you're liking what I'm doing right now, there's a gentleman named Edward Toppy, and it's not a book to learn to sketch. Is it Edward Toppy? Toppy. So we got the collected works of Toppy right here. Very well. It's illustration. Lots of hatching in here, so a bit closer to like some of what I'm doing right now. But this is not a book of how to learn. But I'm definitely inspired by Toppy's work. This is what volume 2 of like these like short stories. So I enjoy getting illustration books for inspiration in like style, but I do think the Scott Robertson How to Draw book is just like the best one for the basics, the foundation. There's another book, I don't have it, I believe it's called Draw. The book's from like 1976 or something. Let me make a note about this. Draw book, and then there's another one. So these again, it's like 1970 or 1980, somewhere like these. Yeah, these books are old, but I'll find the their name, and later on I'll put the information of these two other books of a slightly looser style. And another called Rapid Viz. Again, much older than the How to Draw, but these 3 books can easily be found in a library if you're in the U.S. So you can go check them out for fun, and that will make it just a bit easier to try them out. And then I recommend to everybody, go to the library to get your books at first, especially if they're pricey, so you can just try it before you buy it. And then if it's one you like enough and you enjoy, then go and buy that book. Just cutting my tracing paper here down to 8.5 by 11, so the size is manageable. Okay. And so we have again my first sketch here, or my first like more detailed version here. This is mostly focusing on texture. Right. So I used my study here to do this the texture. Do I have enough space for another one on here? Yeah, I have enough space here. So I'm going to trace this over this one again. because I want to show some people later on, and it's just preparing for a class. And while I'm preparing, you get to see the work I'm doing while I'm preparing. And yeah, so that first one was about texture, and this next one here is about pattern. What is like the coloring of the T-Rex here. And the other reason I'm doing this live stream right now is so that it does get recorded, and anyone from that class can come and watch this later on if they want to just see how I did some of the work leading up to what they're going to see. Samuel, if you're still here, what type of sketching are you interested in getting into? Because like I was saying, I think the How to Draw is a great book if you're interested in hard surface, vehicles, environments, props. But there are definitely some other options if you're interested maybe in more, right, some organic stuff. Of course, if you have a good enough foundation, you can do anything. But I'm just curious, because that might help me give you a slightly better recommendation about what you're looking for. So now we're going to go at this thing again, but this time I'm going to focus on some coloration of the T-Rex here. Well, I say coloration even though there's no color on this because I'm just doing it in black and white, but it would be again just representing the pattern of the T-Rex here. And even with that, knowing the form is still important so that I can put the form on there, the pattern on here, matching that form. And by some accounts, the T-Rex has feathers, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. So the pattern here, to be a little faster about it, we'll actually do with marker first, because it has these like, but you can't even barely see the marker. Let's try a darker one, a number 3 here. That's not showing up on the tracing paper. We'll try 7, and if 7 doesn't work, okay. So 7 is showing up on the tracing paper. So I can use that one. And so at first, just trying to follow the form, and then so I'm doing these crisp lines first, and then kind of coming in and roughing them up for like the smaller details I'm seeing in some of the patterns there. Little spots in a few places as it starts to wrap underneath. feel a little random in there. Anything on the legs? More, the legs get a little spotty as it goes down there. I think that's it. So we got texture, we got pattern. The texture has a little bit of a small hint of light to define that texture there. I enjoy drawing vehicles, building robots. That's why I think I might be interested in that book. Give me an anatomy I handle immediately, but an animal anatomy I get stuck. I mean, any anatomy you just got to practice. Everything is practice. That's all there is to it. So nothing wrong with that you need to practice the anatomy. If you got a handle on human anatomy, you keep practicing animals, you'll get better. I don't think anyone picks it up the first time and gets it. But yeah, if you're interested in robots, vehicles, buildings, absolutely the How to Draw book is the way to go. Maybe another one to consider is Frame Perspective. Covers some similar material as the How to Draw book, but we got, he's a storyboard artist, I believe, for various films. So he's got a little bit more of a comic book style to some of his sketches there. So similar material covered in there. And again, Marcos Mateo Mestre, sorry if I'm messing up his name, has his frame drawing techniques. I think he even has a second book out now. So he's got a number of techniques that he's covering in here. But we can definitely see where this lends itself a lot to some organic things. So the How to Draw book is still probably the first one to get if you're able to afford them all. Or again, like I said, this is definitely available if you're in the U.S. at a library. So if you are in the U.S., take advantage of that. If you're not, and your country, city, state does have a library, see if they have it. That's always helpful. So for this, the next thing I want to do is grab a sketch and do like a lighting study. So because I want to be sure do I understand the form. And I think for that, I think I got to just sketch it again. So we'll do another T-Rex, but one of the ones I've already sketched, and just see, do I understand that form? So we're going to give ourselves some space for a title here. And sketch it again. We'll do a different one just because I don't want to keep drawing the same thing over and over. If you do the same thing over and over, you can have a tendency sometimes maybe get a little lazy because you're not turning a little bit, maybe too much of your mind off. So I want to again switch it up, challenge myself. Though I'm kind of making the mistake here of already my sketch is getting a little large. So maybe, you know what, instead of doing the whole T-Rex, we'll just stick to this, just the head right here. Instead of doing the whole T-Rex. So as I understand this form, Again, I think it's going to help me actually do the pen work to understand the form a bit better. You know, for human anatomy, there's a great book that just came out. I forget the name of it also, but I'll make a note to go find that link. Human anatomy. And again, when this stream is over and I have time later on, I'll come back and post it in the information there. Looks like a old T-Rex there without any teeth inside. So I got this T-Rex here, and if the light is coming from the top, we definitely have a shadow right around here, and there's kind of like a form, gets a little, it's flat right here, comes out right here because like cheekbones, and it's round right here, so again a little more of a shadow, core shadow right there, and then all of the chin sort of wraps underneath, so that's also going to fall in shadow as light's coming from the top. So let's actually work in reverse, and even though normally I'd probably not work in reverse and do my darks first, we're going to work in reverse and do some of my lights first. All right, to capture that light coming from the top. So again, I have light coming from the top here. That is a nice thing about toned paper like this, that we can work the light as well. Again, probably some light hitting the surface right here. And now I'm not looking, before I said I was looking at reference, right now I'm not looking at reference anymore. I'm just trying to understand the form here. Probably just a little light hitting that surface right there. And a little bit around the nose right there. So that is most of the light on the surface there. So we can also go and grab number 3. Hopefully it's not dry, and again, block in some shadow areas there. Lock in some shadow areas right there. Definitely a shadow area right there. Something looks a little weird. Maybe I gotta go study my forms again just a bit more. And we'll go put that mouth in shadow there. All right, so we have a nice little form reading right there. So let's try that again. Maybe just on the head, but from a different angle. You know what? Do I have a different angle reference in front of me? Not really. I was looking for a bit more of a front view. So we're gonna try making this up, right? So in all my studies here, have I done a good enough job looking at the T-Rex here to now both draw the form from like a slightly front view here. And cheekbone's kind of coming out. That's working good. Okay. Open that mouth a bit more, something like that. Definitely, I feel like my studies of the bone structure here are coming into play, helping me out. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's put that in ink now too. Actually, this is going to help to just have the teeth in there. Because I think that one looks a little odd without any teeth. And again, for this, light just coming directly from the top, but this time, because I have the practice over here, we'll drop a few places directly into shadow first. You know, that's in shadow there. And that right there. Two of three. And some pencil in there for some highlights. Again, so it's just popping out a little there, so I'm feeling pretty good about my studies of the T-Rex skull there. Now, well, skull, head. And even though I said this was mostly lighting, I feel the need to come back and touch it up with a little bit of texture there. I got this whole page here, so let's do a full T-Rex and go in the other direction. Something like, maybe we should put the heads across the top because I put a T-Rex all the way here, but we'll work with this. Something like that. And again, at this point, whereas this was without reference, I'm back to looking at a reference just so that this goes by a little faster. That's for the form study there. How long has this been going for? An hour about. And so again, with this, if light is just coming from the top, then everywhere around the middle, we'll get that coarse shadow. We'll dive into it with the pen here. Again, going for larger, simple shapes first. For this part of the leg is definitely in shadow right there, casting a shadow on itself, and some of like this will be in shadow there, but a lot of this might be in light, not as bright as something's directly facing the top, so we'll do a little bit of a gradient going up. Go from a 3 to a 5 for that core. That's actually a 5 would only be if this thing was white, but we're gonna just work with that right now. Come and blend that out a little bit. And then come back and work some smaller areas. So yeah, I think that's really all right. It could have a little bit more contrast. Maybe we'll pull out the 1 here for just a little bit of a gradient going up as well. That is lighter than the 3 and the 5. And then jump back to that white pencil. And add that light in there. Focus maybe on the front end here with the head. So actually doing, whereas with shadow, I started with the bigger places first. With the light, I'll start with the smaller places first. Just to get a little light on there, and I think that's good enough for that. So I want to go back to something else. What am I going to do with this space right here? Let's practice. T-Rex skull in there. I've already done that. Well, I want to fill it with something, and I do want to end that. So if I do something like this right here, and it goes. And I finally feel like I'm kind of having fun with this. And not that it hasn't been fun to sketch before, but now that I feel like I understand the form a bit more, and I've studied a number of other references, I'm starting to feel comfortable kind of sketching it on my own, kind of making up a few of my own little details here. Still nothing here that I'm pretty sure anyone hasn't done before, but again, like I said, finally having some fun for myself instead of just studying what other people have done. I'm also interested in how to make good composition of comic vignettes and how colors and composition affect the feeling their drawing gives us. That's a lot. Where to go for color? I'm not a great source for color. So my beginning point would be to find an artist whose coloring you like and try to emulate that. For me, there's a comic called Low by Rick Remender and Greg Tocchini. I'm sorry if I'm saying his last name incorrectly. And I really like the colors that they do in like the earlier comics of that series. I think they actually just finished up the conclusion to that series. So they're all available as a volume. But yeah, I go and I find other people who have colors that I like. Is that dying? Check the back of the page. I think that might be dying. People who have colors you like, and again back to emulating them, studying what they're doing. All right, so I think that's it for my T-Rexes today. Started off with some bones and then some mass studies. We used one of those mass studies as a texture with a little bit of lighting, lights from the top, a little bit of a pattern study. And we went from those doing some lighting studies. Initially I meant to do this across the whole page, but that looked like it was going to be really big. So I did a head first, or just a head, and then I made up a view of the head that I had no reference of. Studied the form that way. Then did an entire body study. And later on tonight, for people who are actually in my class, I'm going to put all these three together. The lighting, the texture, the pattern, how you do all of that, which will take a long time. But that's why I did them right now. Practice separately. Probably do one larger sketch on order of this size, so we can get that texture in there and that pattern in there while I do the lighting. And like I said, for everyone here right now, I'll go and find again these books later on and put them in the link of the of this stream when it goes. Put them in the link of the stream. Sam, if I don't do it in a few days, just put a note there, Nathan. You said you'd put this and it's not there, and that'll be enough to remind me to find those books. I hope you all have a good day and a good week.